welcome to another edition of the metal, a more romantic edition.
Oh.
Though I didn't bring you flowers or anything, Jim. This is going in honor of Valentine's Day.
Yes, we never do such things like this.
No, maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
Well, we are.
That's right.
And this would be the top, our top 10
It's very subjective.
metal ballads, hard rock ballads from the 80s.
Exactly.
Back in the 80s, Jim, sorry not to interrupt you there, but back in the 80s, everybody had to have that power ballad.
Yes.
It made them. Warrant had one, you know.
That's right.
What else did they ever do? You know, this hair metal business, you know? But it started with some classics in the early 80s, and throughout the 80s, there was something, it was a must-do. Yeah. Even Ozzy on Bark of the Moon had I'm So Tired.
I'm So Tired.
With the violins and everything.
Everything.
I mean, that was the stuff they had to do back then.
To get the girls.
Yeah.
Right? To get the girls.
To get on the charts.
To get on the charts, to hit the mainstream,
yeah.
to get the old people go, oh, you know that Ozzy, that Ozzy Osbourne.
That's right. Even the old people, I like Ozzy.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
Well, you can really relate to us. I'm tired too. I'm so tired.
Top 10 metal ballads, and we had to get a decade here.
Yeah,
so
we picked the 80s. I mean, that's, you know, that's what I was saying. It was strong in the 80s. You had to have that one chart topper, you know, like Save Your Love, Great White.
Yes.
There's a few out there that put them into the charts. Charts meant money.
Dum dum.
Money paid off the record companies because with the touring expenses and the parties, you had to pay off your debts. And that was one way to do it, was launching power ballads.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi made a career out of it. What can we say?
But he's not on the list.
All right, Jim, I'll let you start as usual. Go ahead. What do you got?
Number 10, metal power ballads from the 80s. Def Leppard, Bringing on the Heartache.
Oh, what a song.
It is a heartache,
Off
right?
of a High and Dry.
Heartbreak, Bring on the Heartache. Heartbreak?
Bringing on the Heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
You didn't even get the title right. Great song. Bringing on the Heartbreak off of High and Dry.
Yes.
And also they re-released it with the radio mix version in the late 80s.
I kind of like the first version.
It
was more hard rock and less keyboards and more dynamic.
Yeah, it was a great song.
Def Leppard.
Def Leppard, Bringing on the Heartbreak.
That's right.
I'm going with an instrumental.
Ooh, way.
Yeah, off of the Trilogy album.
Yes.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
Malmsteen.
And it's called a little ditty called Crying.
Yeah.
It's you know, Malmsteen at the time was being criticized.
Is that really a ballad?
Yeah, you got to listen to it. You feel like crying after listening to it. Be honest. Yeah, at the time he was criticized doing the bumblebee. Gene Simmons says the bumblebee solo with no heart or no expression. That's all he was known for. And this, Laid to Rest, he's got acoustic playing on there. I think he plays the bass on the majority of the album.
Okay.
So it's an instrumental. It's called Crying off the Trilogy. Yngwie J. Malmsteen, and of course the J distinguishes him from all the other Yngwie Malmsteens of the world. So.
It gets complicated when you open up the white pages and you just look at
Malmsteen. Too many
Malmsteen. Okay.
There you go, number 8.
We're number 8. Here it comes. You ready? Crocus.
Oh.
Screaming in the Night.
Of course, off of the Headhunter album.
Headhunter album. They had a massive hit called Screaming in the Night.
It was a good video, too.
It was a nice video. And that's where they went mainstream. That's where they got their big break.
I actually saw them that tour. They opened for Def Leppard's Pyromania tour. And that was a big hit for them. Mark Storace. Something I liked about that song. It was kind of their thing. Yeah. The earlier albums, they sounded a lot like AC/DC. They were following whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
That album and that song in particular was they found their own style.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm going number 7 here.
Number 7.
One of my favorite guitarists of all times, of course, Gary Moore. Yes. Big hit for him off of the Victims of the Future album, a song called Empty Rooms.
That'll make you cry.
And he re-released it, a much more synth-oriented version on his Run for Cover album. That's the 2 releases there, but I like the original off of Victims of the Future. Okay. And you can get the live version off of We Want More as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we at now? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Are we at 6?
Always does that.
Because I can't keep track.
Go ahead.
Dawkins. Alone Again Without You.
For me, Jim, that's like one of the very first hair metal ballads, chart toppers. Dawkins, of course, as we
the blueprint for all those.
For our hair metal show, and they're the ones that were unanimous for us being a #1 all-time hair metal band. Check out that episode. And but that's for me. Alone Again was the one that I think many
Tooth and nail.
Many a young lady might have lost their maidenhead over that. That's right. So I'm going number 5.
Number 5, like a suicide.
It's going with Burning Heart off of Vandenberg's first album,
Oh, that's
eponymous
true, yeah.
album,
There you go.
Burning Heart.
Yeah.
Of course, Vandenberg went on to play with Whitesnake, Manic Eden, and this was his original band. And funnily enough, they're in courts right now because the 3 members from that band are trying to get rights to the name.
That's insanity.
And tour without Adrian Vandenberg, the band was named after him. So he's kind of laughing about it, but it might cost him, He's got thrown out of court. They're trying it again in the States now.
Because they just sell at stadiums, those bands.
That's right.
They just sell at stadiums, so they just got to really divvy up all the money there.
Different World off the second album too is a very nice ballad if you want to check that out. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what do we got next?
I'll throw in these so get the list up to
So what
20.
number we got?
Whatever. 5.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
4.
You know what it is? It's Cinderella. Don't know what you got until it's gone.
There you go.
You're gonna cry to this song. This is the song that you're gonna,
Long Cold Winter
girlfriend or wife.
Long Cold Winter.
Yes, it's it's
second album from Cinderella.
That's right. Don't know what you got until it's gone. I mean, they were a ballad band. They were a power.
They always had again. That just proved what we said, right? They always had that one kind of ballad.
Yeah. Nobody's Fool, which would be
live in concert. I was reading recently. He'd come down playing a piano from the rafters to start off that song. Tommy Kiefer, of course, the voice of Cinderella.
Yes. And
it was a good mix of his falsetto and his normal voice. And I think that was a classic. Great video there as well. And that one really launched them throughout the United States. So.
Yeah, and when you're traveling the elevators, you could always hear that song.
Really?
Yeah, it's an elevator song.
It must be a different elevator.
Or if you're in a grocery store.
I'm going with hard rock Canadian icons, Helix.
Helix!
Off their third big major release.
Okay.
It would have been off of the Long Way to Heaven album. A little song called Deep Cuts the Knife. I just like the way it starts quiet and the guitars build up for the chorus and it goes quiet again and
very romantic.
It's a great album. One of their more commercial ones, but that song off of that is for me one of their biggest hits they've ever had. So Deep Cuts the Knife, Helix, coming in at number 3.
Number 2. You ready for this,
I'm ready for this.
Look, there is a differentiation between a ballad and a slow song.
Yeah,
but I was kind of torn.
right.
I was kind of torn, Alan. I was torn. You know how I am. I'm a torn person.
We'll try to go with this Valentine's Day theme.
I'm trying, but I had to go.
All those lovers watching in the metal void.
That's right. So, I mean, Cannibal Corpse has a slow song. It's not necessarily a ballad.
Motorhead 1916.
That's
right. Is that a ballad?
But I had to go with the one and only Ronnie James Dio. All the Fools Sailed Away.
Oh, I thought Don't Talk to Strangers. That's another good one.
Don't Talk to Strangers. But now we're going to go off there. It was off of Dream Evil. All the Fools Sailed Away. I just find it's a wonderful introduction. A very slow introduction. Then you got that sort of like doom groove happening, and the powerful chorus. Very powerful.
Video, they're like pirates on a boat.
They're pirates.
The boat's burning and they landed. Hey, all the fools sailed away. What are they going to be? Going to be drunken Scotsmen?
Number 2,
like
Dio. All the Fools Sailed Away from Dream Evil.
And I'm going to one that really launched their career. Okay. It's the one that solidified them. They were building up for years. Off of the Love at First Sting album. Scorpion, Still Loving You.
Oh my God.
The solo
very mushy. Very mushy.
It's, again, that whole tour, I remember going down trying to get tickets for that concert. It was sold out because all these women went to see them for this one and only song. I'm pretty convinced of that.
Okay.
They were selling out stadiums throughout North America, and that was a huge hit. The guitar solo is one of their best I think they've ever done. And the way it builds, I think it's their Stairway to Heaven. It's
That's right.
Stairway to Heaven, Still Loving
Probably
You.
our generation's Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to high school and you're dancing with your best girl, and all of that song would come on, and all the gentlemen in the audience would begin to rise.
Yeah,
so it had that kind of effect on couples back then.
Okay.
So that's my number 1. That's our top 10
for Valentine's Day. Power metal
focusing
ballads.
On the 80s. Hey, other honorable mentions, because I'm sure you guys are going to write in, and we want you to write in to tell us how wrong we are or how right we are, and give us your suggestions. Winter Dreams, Accept, off of Balls to the Wall. I think that's a great one.
Yeah, Heaven, Warrant.
Yeah,
right? Heaven,
see, that's the one that's
a power ballad. That was like a standard.
That's how they made their name.
And to me, it was a slow song. Is Revelations Ozzy off the Blizzard of Oz. But that wouldn't, I don't know if it necessarily fall into a ballad. That would fall more into a slow, environmentally friendly song.
Yeah, if you look at even Whitesnake, who was right there, wanted to be in there. Is This Love off of the 1987 album? And of course, The Deeper the Love,
Yeah.
which is the only probably hit they had off of Slip of the Tongue.
Yeah.
But those are two major ballads there that fit into the times. That's why we focused on the 80s.
Exactly.
This is our top 10 list. Make sure you write in and let us know what yours is as well. We'll be happy to read about it. And
Yes,
we forgot quite a few. We wanted to narrow it down to 10 to keep this episode at a reasonable length instead of going on for hours. So
the 10 minutes that it already
there
is.
you go. There's wishing you all a very happy and successful and
Metal Valentine's Day.
lustful Valentine's Day. And now, as we're approaching the second anniversary death of Gary Moore, we'd like to just do a special show, a special segment on him. He passed away on February 6, 2011, unfortunately at the too young age of 58 years old, died in his sleep. He was a great guitarist, a huge influence, one of my favorite guitarists of all times. Of course, started out in the late 60s with Skid Row, the Irish band with Phil Lynott and Bruce Shields, not the Sebastian Bach era led Skid Row, of course. And then, went on to with Thin Lizzy and played with them. And in fact, when Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson joined the band, they were going to redo all the Gary Moore tracks. Seemed like whenever Thin Lizzy needed guitars, Gary Moore was not far away and easy to get a hold of. But on the Nightlife album, one of my favorite ballads of all time, Still in Love with You, they went in, Brian Robertson went in to re-record that. He listened to the Gary Moore solo on that album and said, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can add to that, it's perfect as is. And that's the type of guitarist that Gary Moore was. The emotion, technically impeccable, and the emotion he's able to evoke in his guitars, that said it all. And of course, he left the band for a while and came back for the Black Rose album and tour. Left him hanging a little bit in a lurch when he left the band in California. He actually hid out at Glenn Hughes' house. Phil Lynott didn't forgive him for that for years. And he went on to do stuff with Coliseum. And he started his own band, He had a band called G-Force that he was trying to get going with Glenn Hughes and Mark Nosif, who was the New York drummer that filled in for Lizzy whenever Brian Downey was out. I would call that his stop and start mode. He wanted to have a successful solo career, but it just never panned out until the late 70s, early 80s. With some of the albums like Dirty Fingers. For me, that would epitomize the start of his hard rock era. Dirty Fingers, that led into Corridors of Power, that of course led into Victims of the Future. Rumors in there during the recording of these albums that he might join Ozzy's band to replace Randy Rhoads, but he wanted to do his own thing. Wanted to have that solo success. Of course, with Victims of the Future, with a huge hit, Empty Rooms, a great album, very hard rocking album. And from there he went to Run for Cover, a lot more of a melodic, had Glenn Hughes sharing, back in this picture, sharing a lot of vocals with him. Glenn Hughes was probably in his heaviest of his addictions at that time, so wasn't able to follow up with Gary Moore. Phil Lynott got back in touch. They made amends right before Phil's death, unfortunate death of course, and two of his songs, Military Man and Out in the Fields were huge hits off of that album, Run for Cover. And then Wild Frontier was another one that Gary Moore released, of course, a very Celtic sounding album with songs like Johnny Boy, Over the Hills and Far Away, a song itself called Wild Frontier about Ireland. And then it came After the War. Now, although there's some good albums on there, that's probably his most commercial sounding album. And if you look at that album, it says it all. He's got the hair up in the air like the hair metal. It's as if the record company didn't know what to do with him anymore. The guy's been around, started when he was 16 years old. 20 years later, they're trying to squeeze him into a hair metal box. They all knew the talent he had, the guitarist that he was. And the picture on that album says it all. You've got him, he's actually sulking, he's got his hair up, he's got this long trench coat. It just didn't fit. So we didn't hear from Gary Moore for a while, and then he reinvented himself as a bluesman, which was his first true love. That's where he met Peter Green and how he got influenced by the guitar, Peter Green being with Fleetwood Mac at that time. And he went back with Still Got the Blues, which relaunched his career in the early 90s and throughout the 90s. A great album, followed that up with After Hours, and great songs like Separate Ways on there. And Blues Alive, of course, the tour for that, and he did various shows at Montreux that's been re-released at the Essential Gary Moore Montreux recordings. You can get that. It's a 5-disc set, highly recommended. And again, a bit like Neil Young, he reinvented himself every album. So we went from his hard rock phase to his blues phase. In the mid-90s, he did Dark Days of Paradise, as well as A Different Beat, which he has some techno stuff in there. And again, he wanted to challenge himself. In between that, when Cream wanted to get back together and Clapton didn't want to be there, who did they call? They called Gary Moore. They formed BBM. Also did stuff with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Stuff on the Traveling Wilburys, the second album. She plays the guitar solos on the hit they had on that. So again, reinvented himself, kept going back to the blues with albums like Back to the Blues, Power of the Blues, those type of albums there. And then right before his recent death, he released 2 very strong albums called The Bad For You Baby, as well as Close As You Get. When we hear rare tracks of acoustic guitar from Gary Moore, it's rare that you can hear that. And As Close As You Get is highly recommended. It's a very introspective, I find, album. It's one of the last studio albums that he had recorded, unfortunately. And as we're fast approaching the second anniversary of his death, we just wanted to make sure that we recognize a great talent, probably my favorite guitarist of all time. And if we go as his posthumous or post-mortem albums came out, would be Blues for Jimi. That was released in 2012. It dates back to a concert at the Hippodrome, London Hippodrome of 2007 with Billy Cox and Mitch Mitchell. We were actually on drums on a couple of tracks. But they did an anniversary of I think Jimi Hendrix's death at that point. And who else did they go out to can sing the songs and play guitar like Jimi Hendrix? None other than Gary Moore. And that's something that came out late in 2012. So you want to check that out. It's all Jimi Hendrix's compositions. And it's one of his last releases that came out in late 2012. Again, highlight for me of his whole career, and as anybody knows Gary Moore, would be Parisian Walkways, when an instrumental that Phil Lynott, of course, added lyrics to and released in the late 70s, but Gary Moore made it his own. The highlight of every one of his shows was his instrumental interpretation of Parisian Walkways, where he would hold that note for about 3 days. Everybody would wait for him, and he'd hold that note without feedback or anything. It would seem like hours at end, and that would be the highlight of every Gary Moore concert. So again, a sad passing that we just want to put our hats off here at the Metal Boys to one of the greatest guitarists ever, Gary Moore.